Hey guys, how's it going? We're in the studio today working on a few houseplant projects, starting with potting the succulent cuttings that Mountain Crest Gardens recently sent out. They've been sitting here for a few days. I didn't get to them quite as quickly as I had hoped to, but they still look really good. We have a begonia, actually it's right there, that I want to groom and repot, and then we've got some African violets that need some maintenance. These are just a few of them. So they had previously been fairly overwatered, so they started to look like this, and they started to kind of like get squishy and drop leaves. So I've been letting them dry way out, but we need to groom a bunch of these leaves off. I think we've got multiple plants going on here, so we're gonna kind of dissect what's going on here. I kind of want to cut this one down at the base and reroot the whole plant after we groom it, and then we'll be doing some leaf propagation as well. Let's tackle the succulents and the begonia first because that'll go really quickly. Here are all the beautiful succulents. Don't those look so good? So my plan with these is just to root them all in this tray. Actually, this is an 11 by 22 seedling tray. It doesn't have drainage, but we're gonna be very careful with watering. I'm gonna put a layer of cactus mix at the bottom of the tray, and then I'm just gonna line these succulents up. The beauty of having them sit here for a couple of days is that I know that all of the cut ends are very nicely dry. They have calloused over, so we won't have any issues, hopefully with anything rotting. You can put fresh cuttings straight down in soil. You just need to be really careful about watering, and you need to wait at least a week or so because they still will dry underneath the soil. They're still getting oxygen, but it just takes them quite a bit longer, so you just can't introduce water. This I feel like is the safest way, just setting them out, letting them dry, and then you know for sure. The only cuttings we're not going to be putting in this tray are the rickrack cactus right here, because these root a little bit differently. Aren't these beautiful? They're so pretty. You'll notice if you look really close that there's a little tiny root kind of right at the top of each one of these leaves. I mean, I'm not sure what to call these. Like, is this the leaf or is this an individual leaf? I'm not sure. But right at the top of each one of these, you'll see a little root. So we need to make sure to bury these in soil to where at least two, I would imagine, two of those little rooting areas are underneath and can have something to root into. And I just don't think this tray is, maybe it's deep enough, but I don't plan to put that much soil in the tray. So let me get all of these cuttings out, and we'll get our soil in. So we've got our cactus mix right here, and that's all we need. And I just want, like, maybe, this is plenty. This is about maybe an inch or a little bit more of soil. I'm gonna smooth it out. And then, oh, they're just so beautiful. We're just gonna line them up, just like this. See if I can be organized about this. I've got several that are the same variety, I think. So for a couple of these that are a little bit taller, I'm just resting them up against the edge. So there's like a crassula right here that I'll pop down in the soil and just lean it up against the side there. Or you could do individual pots for those if you wanted to do it that way. So the nice part about putting them in a tray like this is that it's going to be really efficient for grow light space. If I would have individually potted each one of these up, it's likely that they would have taken up more space. It would have taken me a whole lot longer to pot them all up, and I will likely be using these fairly soon. They just needed a landing spot, somewhere where they can be in soil and receive a little bit of water so that they can start to root in a bit. And then when I'm ready to use them, I can come along. Most of the time, because they have so much room in this reservoir, I can just pop whatever I need out and utilize it. If they get to a point where they're kind of rooted in together, you don't really have to worry about being really gentle with their roots. In fact, I'll use something like this and just kind of cut around the plant and lift out whichever ones I need. But it typically takes at least 1 to 2 months for them to start forming roots. I mean, they could stay in this tray really for quite a long time, so long as you are really careful about watering. So that part of my project is done. Now we need to pot the rickrack cactus, so I need to go get a proper container. I'll probably just grab a little terracotta pot. Okay, so same kind of process here. We're going to put in some cactus mix first. So for these, we're just going to make a little indentation in the soil, and then we're going to bury them up about this far. I need more soil, I think. Ooh, this one's a little sad. Need some water. Oh, hopefully this one takes right here. We're just gonna give them a little bit of water to get settled in, and then they're gonna go underneath the grow lights. Probably should put a saucer under this one. So I'm just letting the soil settle a little bit to make sure I don't need to add any more. And that's why I don't wear white, typically. That should be perfect. So let me water the rest of these succulents and then we will be done with this part. So we're just gonna dribble in a little bit of water around each one of these. It won't take a ton because this container, again, it does not drain. So I'll water today and I probably won't need to water again for a couple weeks at least. There we go. It's perfect. All cozy under the lights. And this begonia is our next project. See how much we need to groom off of it, but I think it'll look really pretty once it's groomed and potted. I was noticing though that right next to it we have a goldfish plant. It's called Shady Ladies, I think due to its variegation in its leaves. Not pretty, but it's starting to bloom. Look at that. Little goldfish shaped bloom. Love it. You are coming with me. Ooh. So this begonia is called Clara. It's a Hymelis begonia, profuse bloomer with medium-sized white flowers over deep green foliage, easy to grow inside and outside. 10 to 12 inches tall, prefers consistently moist soil. I can provide that, but we do need to just go in. These are really easy to groom. We're gonna pull off all of the crummy looking blooms on here. There's still some really pretty ones though. So I think we'll still be left with some pretty color. It's kind of satisfying grooming a plant that looks like this though. You guys, there are a whole bunch more buds getting ready in the center here. You see those? Oh, there's a whole bunch. That is so exciting. There's also a bunch right down underneath. Fresh growth and beautiful buds. Exciting. Okay, that looks a heck of a lot better. Here's what we were left with right here. And I've got a really pretty urn. We're gonna attempt to pot this one in right here. I think that'll look really beautiful. That's a nice pairing. I'm gonna be using regular potting mix for this part of the project. This container doesn't have a super huge drainage hole, but it's big enough and this pot's gonna be inside. So I've got a paper towel that I'm just gonna fold up and put it at the bottom. Moisture can still go out and it'll keep the soil up long enough to where this will probably root in and then keep the soil in for me. We'll have a saucer under it too, but it just cuts down a little bit on the mess. There, it's perfect. We're not gonna need a lot of soil for this. That's a pretty big root ball already. Okay. Oh yeah, in fact, watch this. A lot of the soil, we can manipulate this plant to really fit in this container well. It's not heavily rooted at all. Not like getting the hatchet out, like in the last arrangement. Okay, we're gonna use a little bit of its own soil here. Maybe a little less. Okay, I'm just gonna pop it down in. Oh, that's so beautiful. All of the extra soil from projects like this, I typically take outside and I'll just pour it in a flower bed where I know there's a little bit of extra space. There's no bug issues or anything going on. If it's infected soil, I toss it, like if I've been dealing with aphids or spider mites or anything like that, or scale. But clean soil like this gets to go right out into the garden. I think we'll top dress with a little moss. I've got a little bit of preserved moss here. It's really beautiful. Really pretty color. Nice and bright. I'm feeling like the urge for bright colors in spring right now. So this is so fun. That's gorgeous. We'll take this back in when we're all done with the African violets. Okay, so for this next part, I think what I'm gonna do is take apart my violets first, determine how many leaves I have to actually propagate, and just see what I'm left with once I've got them all groomed up and kind of sitting in front of me. I did grab a few pots, a few terracotta pots, and a tray, because I thought, well, if I have enough leaves, I might even just do a full tray of leaf propagation and have that going. But I'm just not sure what I'm gonna be left with. And the most important thing, if you're making any big cuts, like to stalks, you do need to disinfect your clippers. I'm just using these snips here in between each big cut. And then for leaf propagation, which I'll go over later, you can use a rooting hormone if you want to. Sometimes I will, sometimes I won't. Today I think I am going to give it a shot. It'll help speed things along a bit. But in taking a closer look at this one right here, you can see our big halo of leaves around the outside. Some of them are okay, like this one here. I might attempt leaf propagation with that one, but I wouldn't try to, of course, propagate anything from a leaf that's got a bunch of spotting or something that's starting to wither up already. We'll just discard those leaves and keep anything that's nice. And then when we take a look at the bottom of the plant, you can see that this one has a little bit of a trunk going on there. So if it's a long enough trunk, you can actually cut the whole thing off and root it. I've showed that in a video before. Or if it's a short one like this, you can just repot it and pot it up to the base of the plant, which is probably my approach. But I think the best thing to do right now is just to take them apart and see what we've got to work with. Okay, this is what we're left with after taking apart the 4 African violets. I did toss quite a few damaged leaves and leaves that just looked crummy, and I saved any of them that didn't have any obvious damage, and like no soft spots, no floppiness. They all look pretty darn good. I will be inspecting them again though as we get ready to put them in the tray, which we've got the 24 count tray here, 24 cells. I think we've got at least that many leaves. And then here are the rosettes. So this one is beautiful. Look at the color. Really nice. So it just has a longer stalk, and we could attack this 2 different ways. Like I've showed in a video before, we could take our clippers that we've cleaned with rubbing alcohol, and you make a cut about 1 inch down from the canopy of leaves, and then you put it in African violet soil, water it in, and then put a plastic bag around the whole thing, just kind of creating a humidity dome, making sure the leaves aren't touching the plastic or any of that. And you just let it be in a sunny, like not a like full sunspot, but a really bright sunspot, or underneath a grow light is where I put mine with my lights, you know, quite a bit above the plant. And it takes a couple of months. They start rooting in and have done really well. Or you can take this and just bury the whole thing, the whole stalk in all the way up to the canopy, and it will create new roots along the stem there. So I might attempt to do that so that we don't have to tent these. Here's another one. This one actually has a side shoot. See that right there? We can cut this one off and pot it separately. And then we've got this one is beautiful, just a little smaller than that first one there. And then there's this one, which is 2 plants. They're growing quite close together though. I don't know that I actually want to get in there and cut them apart. So I think I'm going to pot them like this, let them grow on, and then later on I'll go in and dissect. Once usually one of them will start to grow a little bit of a longer stalk away from the other, so that it's more of a clear cut, and I just don't want to wreck them. I do have a couple of really nice looking African violets left. This is a beauty. Look at that. Dark green leaves, beautiful rosette. Gorgeous. Some people will tell you that getting leaves from closer to the interior of the plant will give you better success in rooting your African violets. I haven't really found that to be the case. As long as the leaves are nice and good health, I find that you can still take them from the outer, like the under layers and be fine. But if you were to follow that advice, which might, you know, get you better luck in the beginning, I guess. I haven't done a side-by-side comparison, but what you would do is go in and see, this is the bottom layer of leaves right here. This would be your bottom one. You can see there's two right there. This would be your second layer here, and this one is actually on top of that one. So that's your third layer leaf. So you would want to take from like the second or third layer, and apparently you have better luck doing it that way. So I guess if you want to go the extra safe route, pick a really healthy leaf up a little bit closer to the interior of the plant. Also, this is completely optional, but you can dip your cuttings in rooting hormone if you want to. I'm going to make my dilution. You put in a tiny bit of this concentrate and then fill the whole thing with water, and that's what you dip your cuttings in before you put them in soil. It helps speed the process up just a little bit. Either way is fine though. And the last thing is you can root your leaves in water instead of soil if you want to do it that route, in which case you get a little cup. Some people like to use like clear Solo cups so you can see through and see what's going on, or like a little Dixie cup. You put a little piece of saran wrap over the top and then a rubber band around it to keep it firm over the top, and make a little slit with your like a tip of a knife or scissors or something, and then you just pop your leaf down in there so that the leaf part is up above the saran, sitting up above the cup, but the stem part is down in the water. And then that way you can let them root in the water, can watch their progress, and then pot them up later. I tend to like to go straight to soil just to skip that extra step. So that's completely up to you. So let's get our tray filled and get these planted. Okay, so we have our leaf here. We're gonna come in and make a 45-degree angle cut, kind of like this. And then we'll take that leaf and just gently insert it into the soil, like that. That's it. Super easy. So again, we have our leaf, make our cut, and into the soil, kind of at an angle. And if you're using rooting hormone, you do the same thing. You make your cut, you dip for 3 to 5 seconds, and then you insert it into the soil. Okay, so we're gonna continue on, fill up this whole tray. Those look perfect. Now I do have the proper bottom tray and humidity dome that fit this particular tray, the 24 count tray, but I put it in this larger one, the 11 by 22, because it enables me to use this giant dome right here, which is so nice, because you don't want the leaves to be touching the sides or the top, and some of these leaves, like this one here and a couple back there, are quite tall. I tried the dome and it just wasn't working. Also, I need to attach this better, but this allows me, I mean, I'm gonna want the humidity to be really high in the beginning, but maybe once they start to show some growth, I can start letting a little bit more air, or if we have any condensation, like big time issues, I can open that up. It also has side vents too, where I can open and close those if needed. And it did allow a little bit more room on the side here so that I could pot up probably the 3 smaller ones. Like we'll actually cut these and reroot these in here. I'm gonna go ahead and just use terracotta pots for the 3 of these. We're going to clean our blade between each cut, but we're just gonna make cuttings, put them down in African violet soil, water them in, and we can dome this whole thing and put it under a grow light. It's pretty simple, really. First cut about 1 inch down from the canopy. That looks really good, nice and clean. And then we're just gonna pop it right down into the center here. Okay, I'm gonna clean the blades again. Got our next one, make our cut. This one I'm going to try rooting hormone. I'm just going to nest it right down in here. Okay, so now we have the one with the little arm. I'm going to take it down pretty much right flush with the trunk of the other one. We might even have a few roots left on it. Yeah, look at that. So I'm going to need to get a little pot for this one. I'm going to put it down in rooting hormone for a few seconds. And then down into the container. Go find a little itty bitty pot for this one. So cute. Okay, so we're almost done. We have just this one last African violet to repot, but since this tray is done, I will just show you how I water it in. I use this large syringe. This is a 100 ml syringe because it allows me to have a lot of control with the water, and really, I do not want to put a ton of water in here. I don't want to fully saturate the soil. I also don't want to get any water on the leaves. So I'm just gonna go in and just put a little bit in each cell around each plant. And then like in these, I'll just put a little bit around the edges here so that the soil can settle in. Pretty simple, really. Okay, so now all we have to do is put the dome over it. I'll make sure that all of the air vents are shut and none of the leaves are touching the sides. Might have to adjust just a little bit. There we go. Now we just need to find some space under a grow light. We are filling up fast under our grow lights, which is so exciting. I've got these 2 shelves though at the bottom of our Oslo grow light systems free. I do need to fix a couple of lights underneath though. You can see there's 2 lights on the bottom of that one. These come with just 1 light per shelf, which is sufficient for a lot of things, but not necessarily for seed starting. So that's why I've got 2 per shelf, and they do recommend that. These are from Gardener Supply. So I've since had a couple of boxes of lights sent in. We just need to get them hooked up. It's really easy. They're actually magnetized. So they're easy to move around. It's awesome. So let's get that set up first, and then we can put our African violets down here. And there they will stay for the next few months until they start rooting in, showing some growth. It's really exciting. It looks so much better to have this going than what I had going prior. Those were some rough looking violets when we started. So that's really all there is to it with African violets. It's really not that difficult of a process. It's just more of a waiting game than anything else, and really finding out which method works for you. Because I know, a lot of people swear by water propagating with them. I like to do soil and have always done soil. So, it's just trying out different things and seeing what works for you based on your climate and what situation you have and all that sort of thing. So it's a fun experimental thing to do, because if you have to groom your African violets anyway, you may as well try to get more plants out of them. It's kind of a fun deal. So I will give you updates as we go along with that whole tray we just put under the grow light. The last one I have is the one with the roots still intact. So we'll get this one planted. It won't have to be domed or anything because it already has roots. We'll just get it right back underneath the grow lights and let it kind of settle into its new spot before I take it inside. And then after we're done with that, we'll take the pretty begonia in the urn inside and place it. Here we go. Whew, it's a little chilly outside. We're gonna have to go fast. And this is where it ended up, as a centerpiece in the middle of this table that sits in what used to be the kitchen on the old side of our house. So this part of the house was built in 1919. We don't use it as a kitchen, mostly for storage. In fact, you'll see over here where the sink is, I've got some vases and things that are gonna go out to the cut flower shed. I just don't have anywhere else to put them for the moment. Usually this tabletop is completely junked up. I usually have stuff everywhere in here, like projects I'm working on right in the middle of. Right below the table, I have the cut flower shed chandelier. I figured it was safer in here than it would be out in the barn. And then part of my Christmas present from Erin, I still need to set that up. It actually worked out perfect because we're clearly a couple of days later. I think I'm wearing a different sweatshirt. When I got in with the begonia the other night, Samantha needed me, so I just set it on the counter and abandoned the project for the day. But it gave me a chance to clean up in here because it was a wreck. But this side of the house stays cooler, especially this room. It's right by the shade porch, which is not heated. You know, we've got all the old windows still in here, so it's cool. Plants usually really like that. So, and it's low maintenance too, and it's near a sink. So it'll be easy to keep it watered. And because it's cool, I won't have to water it quite as often. So I think it'll be a good plant to have back here. And here's the door to the shade porch, looks out toward the barn. And if I swing this way, our laundry room is here. There's a little cubby right here that's really cute, looks to the outside. And then if we go through this swinging door into what used to maybe be the dining room. Oh, the sound changed big time. It's so echoey back there. This is the room that the beautiful Steinway is in. And then this room looks back through the landing down into the kitchen. You can see there's balloons all over from the kids' birthdays still. And that is gonna be it for today's project. I do feel like we got a lot done. A lot of those little things that don't really take forever to do, but they just like pile up on your list of to-dos. So it's really nice to get those checked off. I've been monitoring the African violets since a couple of days ago when we started this project. They're looking great. Everything's looking really good. So I'm hopeful that we'll have some violets here in a few months, or at least some new growth, little new growth to show you. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.